I'd like to introduce Glen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Glen. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Glen. And I'm from the Glen Head group, the best group in all of AA. And if you don't think your group is the best group, then don't come to my group and screw it up. Stay there and fix it. An old archivist from Suffolk used to say that, and he passed on. I wanted to carry that little thing on because I think it's kind of how I believe now. My home group is the best thing that ever happened to me. If it wasn't for my home group, I wouldn't be here tonight. You know, I wouldn't be dressed like this. I'd be dressed like a slob. I'd be sitting on a curb someplace. I'm going to tell you a little bit, like Kelly said, about how it was, what happened, and how it is today. That's what it tells us to do, in a general way. See, I never had this owner's manual. This is my owner's manual. This is called the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you don't have it, get one. There's a literature person in here someplace. They'll give you one tonight if you don't have the money. And if they hassle you about it, I'll give you the bucks for it. All right? But that's the thing that saved my butt. And that's the thing that I'm here to talk about because it is the single most important thing in my life. I started drinking when I was around 16 years old. I used to drink half quarts of Cove 45, drink them halfway down, and then fill it up with a Reba wine or Thunderbird wine and pound that down. See, I was into oblivion. I wanted to get out there. I was successful if I blacked out. That's the way I drank, right from the beginning. I was into blackout. I was into having a good time. As the speaker, what's his name? Roach, yeah. Cliff Roach, right? Yeah, from California. He says, you want to have fun. Fun, all right? Well, that's what I want to do. I want to have fun, you know? And I was always into partying. It's kind of interesting when you think about it that, getting loaded, falling down, puking on yourself, and ripping your clothes and losing your date is fun. You know? But that's what I did. I did that for fun. I mean, wherever I went, I had fun. I used to fall asleep in bathtubs. And I'd go to a party, and I'd go in the bathroom, close the shower curtain, and go to sleep in the tub. And nobody would even know I was in there. You know, I tried not to listen too much, but, you know, really, I was just used to hang out in there. I was the kind of drunk you just asleep back, you know, and just didn't do anything, fell asleep. I didn't start any fights. I didn't start chasing after your wife or any of that kind of stuff. I was in for fun. That was my idea of fun. I got better after that, right? I started drinking for every occasion, you know. I started drinking on Thursday because it was the start of the weekend. Thursday would start the weekend, I'd start getting going, and then Friday, I'm going in some more, you know, and start going with the guys on Saturday. By Sunday, the guys who I was with on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were burnt out. So I have a Sunday crew. And the Sunday crew was good until Monday, and the Monday... So I was going from Thursday to Monday. And then I started stretching it from Wednesday to Tuesday, you know. And I was always partying. I would take off maybe Tuesday night for like recoup, you know. I needed a little breather. But I had different crews. Wherever I went, I had the Monday night crew, I had the Tuesday night crew, the Wednesday night crew, because I loved to party. The real deal was I didn't want to be alone. I didn't like Glen. I didn't like who I was inside. And it took you guys to teach me about that. And I'm eternally grateful to you guys for that. See, I didn't know who I was. And I wanted to be what you wanted me to be. You know, Kelly was talking about the class clown. You know, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the class clown. I wanted to do whatever you wanted me to do so I'd make you happy, and I was going to do that. I would stand on my head, I would do all these silly faces, you know, and that was just to make you happy. But I never cared about me. I never looked at me, what do I want to do in life, you know? I never had this owner's manual. It felt like when I went to school, like elementary school, I left the room for a minute, go to the bathroom or the principal's office or whatever. And when I came back, you know, everybody went, shh, here comes Glen, hide the book. That's what it seemed like. It seemed like I didn't know how to live life on life's terms. I didn't know what this whole deal was about. It took coming in here and working the steps and working this program of recovery to teach me what it was all about. You know, I looked at my watch before, you guys were counting days and stuff like that. I said, oh, how many days do I have? I was going to be clever and say, I have, you know, like Charlie, I have 3,000 years and 200 months and one day. It turns out that today is my 6-month anniversary. It was 12 years, 6 months ago that I got sober. And I'm really grateful to you guys for that. Thank you. As it turned out, September 29th, which is now October 10th, but September 29th was my last day of infamy. And I want to briefly talk about that because it's what brought me into these rooms. You see, I've been, it wasn't until I was sober for about 3 or 4 years, going to meetings, participating in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that I realized that 10 years prior, my wife coaxed me to go to a meeting. I went to a meeting and I said it was too smoky. I said the people were too old, I don't understand what's going on in there, and it's not for me. Now 10 years, I'm out there swinging from the trees and in a lot of misery. You know, for you newcomers, hear me carefully here. When you walk in the door, tag, you're it. You know, that's what it's about, guys. You may try to fight it all you want, but when you come walking in the doors, you claimed it. That's it. You're in AA, welcome. You know? Somebody told me, and I wish they would have told me this way back then, but they told me coming into AA is not like giving up. It's like joining the winning side. Wow, I could have handled that a lot easier, knowing that I was joining the winning side. See, I don't like to give up on anything. I'm a tough guy, right? When I was in school, I used to sit in the back of the room. My eyes are so bad, I can't see anything, right? 5/25/20 is my prescription. And I wouldn't wear glasses. I'm so cool, you know. I'm cool, you know. And I'm sitting in the back of the room, the teacher puts a test on the board, I'm dead. You know, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do all this stupid stuff to try to... I failed the test, big time. But I was cool with my guys, you know what I mean? I was living a double life. I was good in scholastics, and yet I would hang out with the guys with the motorcycles and the wine and the Ariba and all that. It was living 2 different lives until one day my English teacher said, you know, you got to straighten up if you want to graduate, because you're not going to make it the rate you're going. And I evaluated that whole thing, and I said, yeah, I want to do that. And that was the start of me trying to get better. Although for the next, 20 years or so, like I said, I was out there swinging from the trees. September 29th, 1987, my last day of infamy. I left work about 4 o'clock. Now I was pissed off at the boss, and I went to happy hour with a couple of my buddies, and we were doing a couple of shots and beers. Because I knew that was my express train. That was on my way to oblivion, okay? And we did a couple of shots, and then my buddy came over and said, hey, let's go over to my house. We come over to my house, and we did 1 shot of everything I had in my liquor cabinet. I mean, we did tequila, we did rum, we did cognac, we did everything, okay? I knew I was going to get loaded. I mean, I'm on my way. There's no doubt about it, right? And I used to make wine, okay? And about 5 years before this, we went to Poconos, and we picked maybe 50 pounds of blueberries. Now, we made blueberry wine, we made blueberry muffins, we made blueberry this, blueberry that. And what are we going to do with the rest of it? We made blueberry wine. I let the cat out of the bag. We made blueberry wine. It was the deal, right? After the next year, we went and we picked 50 pounds of blueberries again. But we didn't make any muffins, we didn't make any pies, we didn't make any of this or that. We made all wine, right? We had fruit flies all over the apartment. We're going like this, you know. It was fun, but it was like God's gift to mankind, you know. It was beautiful nature's way of giving us a high, you know. Well, we started making more wine. You know, if a little bit is the right amount, and more is better, too much has got to be perfect, okay? Can anybody identify with that? That's where I live, you know? So, we started making more and more and more wine, right? And then we started going down to the local Italian guy down the block, you know? We started buying the grapes. And it takes 84 pounds of grapes to make 5 gallons of wine, okay? And you're ahead of me. Well, we started making more and more grape wine, okay? And I had them percolating all in my basement, you know? I had these. I wanted this to be like... you know that Monte Alban or whatever, no, that's a tequila. That guy who talks about Corinthian leather, you know. I wanted to have these things with the cubby holes with all the wine bottles and like then, you know. I wanted to have the different kinds of, I can't think of the names of wine, that's how sober, it's great. I used to remember all these wine names, but I can't do this anymore, right? So, we're making more and more wine. I had, the last year, in 1987, I had 3/4 tons of grapes delivered to my house. That's enough to make 950 bottles of wine. For my own consumption, if anybody's here from the IRS, because I didn't sell this stuff. Okay? But I'll tell you, that's what my disease took me to. If a little bit is the right amount, more is better, too much has got to be perfect, right? Well, I went to Queens to get some labels. I remember we just finished doing a shot of everything in my cupboard there, right? And I'm on the expressway and I'm driving because you know, if it's my car, if we're going someplace, it's going to be my car. I'm driving. You can come with me if you want, but I want to go when I want to go. If you want to come with me, that's fine, but I am not leaving with you, right? Because I'm in control. That's a big deal for me, control. We're driving down to LIE, and by this time I'm in a blackout. And I used to drive a lot in blackouts. I used to pick up my kids on weekends. I had rent-a-kids, and I used to pick them up on weekends, and I'm in a blackout. I'm not as proud of that, but that's really what was going on. You know, we'd go to my local pub where I used to shoot darts, and I'd give the kids quarters, and they'd be playing the pinball machine while I'm doing shooters and beers. Not a happy thing. Anyway, I'm on the expressway. We go to the wine place. I'm going to pick up some labels. And this woman thinks I'm a total jerk, you know. She says, "What are you doing? What's the matter with you?" I don't know. I just need some labels. I got some labels for my what? What are you talking about? Like, you know. So she gives me these labels, and I come home, and remember this whole day started because I was mad at my boss. Now I would go out drinking, like it says in the big book. I would go out if I got a raise. I would go out if I'm going on a trip. I would go out if I just came back from a trip. I would go out because I was pissed off with my boss. It didn't make a difference. I just loved going out. Came home, I was loaded. It was only about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. My wife was asleep. I jumped up on top of her, put my knees on her shoulders, and with my clenched fists, I started beating her face. That's what this disease does to me. It makes me do things I am not happy about. It makes me do things I can't believe I did. I woke up the next morning in the spare bedroom. Now, I never sleep in the spare bedroom. I woke up at 10 o'clock in the morning on a business day. I never sleep that late. I'm always at work at 8 o'clock. If you're at work at 8 o'clock, you're not a drunk. My wife wasn't there. I go into the bedroom. I said, "What happened?" She's not there. I call her up at her job, and she said, "You'll see when you get home." When she came home, her face was black and blue and swollen, turning yellow, puffy. And I said, "My God, what happened to you?" She said, "You don't remember." I said, "No, I don't remember anything." She took out a restraining order. I go to the court the next day. I'm standing in front of the judge. Sick thinking coming, guys. Sick thinking, okay? The judge says, "I have 3 stipulations for you." The first stipulation is that, it was a restraining order, 6 months restraining order. That's what this whole deal was about, right? 3 stipulations. I can't come home drunk. My sick mind says, well, I'll just have a couple of beers in the backyard. You know? Just 2 beers. Maybe you guys have had 2 beers before. The second stipulation was I can't drink in the house. I said, well, I'll drink outside. That's not a big deal, you know, outside, inside. Third stipulation was I get counseling at the local alcohol counseling center in Glen, Cove. That was the one that I knew was a problem. Because I knew that they knew. You know? See, I went to psychologists, psychiatrists, paid them $90 an hour, and you know, do you do drugs? Oh God, no. You know, do you drink? Well, occasionally on birthdays and holidays. I'm lying to this guy, paying him $90 an hour, and what's going on, you know? But I knew that they knew. So here I am going to Alcohol Counseling Center, and she says to me, don't drink, go to meetings. Maybe you heard that once or twice around here. Don't drink and go to meetings. She says there's a Glen Head group. That's good for me, by the way. Glen Head group, right down the corner on Mondays and Thursdays, 6:45. Go down there and check it out. Well, I blew that off. I wanted to see, forget it, I'm not going to go to a meeting. Came back the next week. She said, you know, if you don't go to a meeting by next week, you're going to be in contempt of this order, and that's it. And I didn't want to go to jail for 6 months. So in effect, Jail is what got me into these rooms the first time. Okay? Now I go into the Glen Head group, best group in AA. I go into Glen Head group, and there's smoke from about this high off the floor up to the ceiling. There's nothing but 80-year-olds sitting around like this around the outside. I said, my God, this looks like God's waiting room. What am I going to do here? This is terrible. But, you know, I started going more and more and more because I was feeling like crap. I can use crap, right? Poo-poo. I felt like poo-poo. Well, you used it before, didn't you? I can use it. If he used it, I can use it. And I knew that 1 hour later, I felt better. You know? That was the deal. I knew that if I felt like crap one day, 1 hour later, I felt better. So I thought, if a little bit is the right amount, more is better. Too much has got to be perfect. I went to a lot of meetings, okay? I went to a lot of meetings. And I got 8 minutes to get totally sober. Well, I started looking around at the smiling faces and the dancing eyes. And I said, you know, I want what you guys have. And that's how I started to really get involved with this thing. I started getting involved with the steps and the traditions. I started to get involved with doing service. I was so grateful to the Glen Head group, best group in here, that I went to this old timer over there and I said, you know, I want to buy the group a case of big books, not the little books. I want the big books. You know, and I want to buy a case because I'm big, you know. More is better, right? So he says, well, you know, instead of buying a case of big books for the group, there's a new position open, and it's called the literature chairperson. And what you got to do is set up the table over here and put the literature on there. I said, I can do that. He goes, yeah, you don't have to buy the books, the group will give you the money. I said, great. So I started getting every pamphlet that GSO ever made. I got every book that GSO, more is better, right? Every book that GSO, I went to Hazleton, I got every book that Hazleton ever put out. And then we had a big controversy, you know, in our group. We had a group conscience about AA stuff and non-AA stuff. We had to have 2 tables separated by 1 inch so that, you know, they weren't touching each other. But I grew through that whole thing, you know what I mean? So service is wonderful. Now that was the beginning of my service. I became involved as a GSO. I became involved as a DCM for my area, my region. And then I became alternate DCM at large for Nassau County. And a lot has happened when you go into service. You know, you go in there like you want to change the world. And all of a sudden you realize that the world really doesn't need changing. You know, as Chuck C says, we have to change our perception. You know, this is a disease of perception. And that's what I got out of service. I think it's something that if you're thinking about getting into service, if you're thinking about how happy or grateful you are that you're sober today, that's the time to take that energy and devote it towards giving it back to the group. Because it's when we give back to the group, we get it big time. I mean, I used to get high with my buddies. I used to party, right? And we used to have a good time. But I never got as happy as I get today, helping another drunk. I'm fortunate enough to be in a business where I get a lot of phone calls, drunks, you know, all kinds. I get people from all over the world calling me about stuff like this. And I really get off on it. It is such a charge working with other drunks. I was at a convention recently, and a guy came up to me, and he just started talking, yeah, I'm having a hard time. I start to realize that this is his first day. And his father drank obsessively, and he didn't know what to do, and he's an Al-Anon or Alateen or whatever it was. And I pulled him on the side, and we started talking to him, and you know, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. This reaching out. When anyone, anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand of AA to be there for that. I am responsible. That's what we're talking about. You know, if you feel slightly good about coming here, if you feel slightly better 1 hour after you walked in this door, then give it away to somebody else, and then watch what happens. I mean, that's part of the miracle. The miracle is pretty cool. I'm telling you, it can happen here, right in this church, right here, right with your buddy. You know, it means that when you're walking down in all our affairs, right, 12-step in all our affairs, we're walking down the street and we see a piece of paper. We pick it up. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. I never used to be like that. I walk down the streets of Glen, Cove now, and the mayor says, "Hey, hi, Glen, how you doing today?" That's big stuff, man. Not because I'm the great I am. You know, I have a badge in my business. I wear a name badge, and my name badge is little g, because I have to keep right size. You know, my ego has a tendency to just take off and run away with this thing, and I don't want that to happen. Because when my ego runs away, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble big time. That's what got me here in the first place, was my ego. When I stay right size, when I reach down and I help somebody else, that's when I really get this program. And I'm forever grateful to you guys for showing me how to do it, because I never had the rule book. You showed me what pages to read. I give the guys that I sponsor six paragraphs to read out of the big book. I'm going to give it to you now because I still have a couple minutes. It starts out with On Awakening, that the gentleman doing the pop quiz on the big book things. Right? On Awakening, that was last week's. It's on page 86. You read the bottom two paragraphs, you go up to the top of page 87, because that paragraph still carries over onto page 87. Then you go to page 25 and it talks about the great fact. The great fact is that God can do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Pretty big, man. That's a big deal. Learning that God can do for me what I can't do for myself. That's the whole deal of this program. From page 25, we go to page 63. On my knees, I say the third step prayer. Third step prayer says, I can't do this. I'm going to let it be your way, God. I want to do it your way today. And from there, I go to the seventh step prayer on page 76. Seventh step prayer says, take away all the stuff that's blocking me from doing it that way. I just said I wanted to do it your way, God. Take away all the stuff that's blocking me. Page 77, fourth sentence says, our primary purpose is to be of maximum service to God and to others about us. That's what it's all about. On page 85, it talks about we're granted a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That means I have to do this every day. Every day I wake up, I have to get reconnected to my God. I go to a meeting at 6:45 in the morning in Seacliff, which is only one town away. Why? Because at 8 o'clock when it's all over and I'm back in my office, I'm connected. I'm connected to the big guy. He's the big guy. I'm the little guy. I need to keep that in mind. God is my senior partner in my business. You know, he does the contracts and all that stuff. I do the pins and pads. That's all I'm good for. Just give me the pins and pads. And the last thing in the reading is page 89, working with others. The first two paragraphs, it talks about nothing will be greater than working with another alcoholic. We know you will not want to miss it. You know I can't do it right now, I'm up here. We know you will not want to miss it. It's just one of the best things that ever happens, working with another alcoholic. This is a great honor for me to come in here and speak to you guys tonight. I knew about your group for a long time. I was probably hearing about you guys when you were first starting up. And it's really grown to a wonderful, wonderful group. I heard so many new people, less than 90 days in this group. I said to Vince before, I said, my God, I can't believe how many people you have here. He was telling me you can have a paddy wagon that goes around collecting all these people from the car. It's wonderful that there's so many newcomers here, because this is the way it is. We all reach out and help each other, and that way we can stay sober. Thanks for letting me share.